Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. Hope everybody's having an awesome day today. I'm super excited. I have Tony Whatley on the program today, and he has written the book, Side Hustle, Millionaire.
That's right. Side Hustle Millionaire.
I love it. I love it. If this is already perking your guys' interest, make sure to stay tuned. Tony Whatley is a business mentor, best-selling author, podcast host, and entrepreneur. He has led a dual career for the last 20 years in two distinct industries, oil and gas and automotive performance. This was accomplished by starting businesses during his spare time, guys. He is best known as co-founder of ls1tech.com, a massive online automotive community which grew into the largest of its kind. This website has over 100,000 visitors per day and 300,000 registered members. After selling the website to a large corporation in 2007, Tony began consulting small businesses on all aspects to ensure their growth and success. With his corporate background in managing, oh my goodness, what, 100 million
projects? Big projects, usually between 100 to 500.
A lot of projects and budgets.
There you go. Very complex stuff.
He found some similarities within managing companies and their leadership requirements. Tony is an accomplished speaker, and he also has articles published in numerous magazines. His mission is to help people gain knowledge and courage to take actions to help others become the best versions of themselves. Welcome. What's up, Whatley, to the show?
Hey, Linda. Thank you. You sound like my old high school football coach. Awesome. And let's get some energy into this show and really give some value to the listeners. And I can't wait to meet your audience. And thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Hustle, right? We're always hearing we got to hustle to get it done. And I know a lot of us have a lot of irons in the fire. You know, you get all these ideas. Especially if you're an entrepreneur, you're thinking, I've come up with 100 ideas a day, right? So I want to kind of dive into in the book where you're talking about how we're all chasing squirrels and shiny objects, and how do we nail that down?
You got to have goals. Just like anything in life, you got to have goals or some kind of a mission or a purpose to achieve. And a lot of times when I work with my clients to start their first business or scale their business, we either look at financial goals or time goals. And you'll find that at different phases in everybody's life, they have different goals. Like when we get in our older, let's say like 40 and older, we start to think value more on time. So we start to look for a business model that may be able to generate revenue that reduce their time requirements. Whereas someone in their 20s or 30s tends to be chasing the dollars because they're not at that lifestyle that they want to achieve at the moment. And so they're looking for ways to maximize income, and they're going to be willing to like put in these long hours to get that income, to get to that level. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. So first we have to establish the goals that you want, and then we just work backwards. We start to identify the steps that you need. And here's the honest truth. There's a lot of people out there that have ideas or passions for a business, but then they don't realize that it's not going to get them to their goal. So you may have this like a real passion for a knick-knack or a widget or just something that you want to get built, and you think that's going to be changing the world, but it's really not going to get you to that time goal or that financial goal that you've established. So it's really a waste of your time. So what I help you do is go through these in an analysis, and we start to compare all of your ideas and really try to find the one that's actually going to get there for you. And that's the one you need to focus on.
I love that. So, and it's not really about all the million ideas we have, because you can't follow them every one. It's like a train, especially if you really are in the flow. So I love how you say in the book, it's not about all of these, dreams and visions you're having, but it's about the ones you take action upon. And, I love, the whole idea of this side hustle. And how can people take action on a side hustle when they're maybe slaving away in a day-to-day grind?
Well, first of all, those are some of the biggest excuses that we hear for not starting anything or doing anything, whether that's fitness like your group has, or starting that business or just doing things to create new habits. There are all these convenient excuses that people like to share saying, I don't have time to do that. I don't have the money to do that. I don't have enough knowledge to do that. Like all these are high level excuses that they're used to sharing with other average people who are not going to willing to press on those excuses. And just like, that's the conversation ending there. Like, oh, why don't you start a business? Oh, I don't have time. Well, most people they tell that to are saying, yeah, I don't have time either. It's cool. Like, we don't have to talk about that. Like, let's change the subject, right? So here's the thing, guys. The priority of whatever you're doing today, whatever actions you are taking today, those are your priorities. And when you reframe that as the word as a priority rather than what you enjoy doing or what your hobbies are or things that you're doing, spending time on the couch watching television or, whatever you're working on, that's your priority. And when you start to reframe things like that, are video games really my priority? No. Is surfing Facebook and Instagram for 4 hours a day really my priority? No, not unless there's some kind of a lead generation or monetizing going on there, some business reason. No, that's not a priority. So when you start to put people's perspectives in that, you realize that we all have the same 24 hours per day. All of us have that. But you start to see like, hey, if thousands or maybe even millions of other people have done what do I want to achieve, and they've had that full-time job or they've had that family and a spouse and all these other issues, like, and they've still achieved that, then it's possible. It's because those other people took action and put their priorities straight, or they had to give up some of the things. So we can actually look at a timeline of all the things you do in that day and start to chip away at things. And you could probably come up with, honestly, 1 to 3 hours of time that you just waste doing other stuff that's really not a priority. And that's the time you should be focused on creating that business or doing things that are going to get you ahead in life.
I totally agree with that. And I think if a lot of us would put a timer on when we're getting on our social media, we would realize how, and then write down what you accomplished while you were on there. You would realize how much time you're spending spinning your wheels, really, so to speak. And I love the whole thing about prioritizing. I was listening to Rachel Hollis today, and it really made sense to me when she said, well, I don't have time for this and I don't have time for that, but I have time to go find my sugar-free vanilla latte. And, it's really, you prioritize the things that you want to do, but sometimes you need to prioritize the things you need to do, right?
That's it. It's a big word. Just like anytime you're thinking about like, I don't have time, start saying it's not my priority. And when you start to think of it like that, you're like, oh, that kind of has a little pain to it. Like, that's not my priority. My health is not my priority. Like, no, it should be. It should be. But if you're not taking the actions to eat right and be fit or start this business or find a better job instead of complaining the one that you got, like it's not your priority. And when you start to think of it that way, you're like, wait a minute, that is my priority. And now it kind of throws you into a different mindset to actually take some action.
I love that. And truly, setting your priorities is what gets you ahead. I love diving into all of the excuses that we might make. And one of them that I don't know if I kind of got stuck in it for a little while, but I climbed out of it, was when I was starting a business. It's not like I went to business school, it's not like I had any kind of idea, business plan, roadmap, anything, right? So it was this whole like overwhelm of, oh my gosh, I don't know enough. And I think that you can get stuck in that. And I got stuck in that when I began teaching classes, because we had to learn everything. I even had to learn how to teach boxing, or I had to learn whatever came down the pipe. And at first you'd be like, I'm not a martial artist. I'm not a boxer. I've never had a fight in my life. And you want me to teach this? Like you were like, I don't know enough. So I want you to address the I don't know enough.
Man, that's a really powerful excuse that gets used by so many people. But here's the thing. If you have a smartphone in your possession or the internet, chances are if you're watching this, you probably have both because we're streaming live. That is the biggest excuse there is, because right now the information is out there. You don't have to go to the university to learn about business. There's so many blogs, podcasts, books, videos on YouTube. Like, the information is just out there, and there's coaches that you can hire. They're mentors like myself that can walk you through this entire system. Anything you want to learn, you can learn from somebody. it's not like you're trying to reinvent or create some new thing that doesn't exist and you're having to pull all this creative energy into yourself. It's like, look at somebody that's achieved the things that you want to achieve and then go ask them how they did that. And if they say, hey, go take this program or read this book or hire me to teach you, like there's all these different alternatives so that you can't just say that I don't know. That's just like being ignorant on purpose. That's your choice. It really is.
It is. And isn't it like, I think what it is too, is when people are saying, I don't know enough, they may not yet, they may not know enough yet, but you can learn. And it's also, they aren't feeling confident. And I love how you say in the book, confidence is a decision. Wow. Like you decide to do it. You decide to open that business. You decide to learn. You decide, all right, I don't know enough yet, but I'm going to learn.
Yeah. So for the first 2 chapters of my book, I really focus heavily on mindset. And what you realize is that there's so many excuses available. I don't have time, don't have money, don't know enough, don't have the right connections. I mean, there's all these kind of excuses. And I actually sent out a questionnaire and I got answered by over 100 business owners. And they gave their answers to the things like, what was the thing that kept you from starting? What was the things that you learned to make? What was the biggest mistake you have? What would you do over again? What would you like change? Are you making the revenue targets that you imagined when you started your company? Like, and they shared all this information and I compiled it down to the answers and I took the percentages of the answers that had like double digits, like 10% or higher basically, and really put those in order and really analyze each of those excuses and gave a good answer to each of those. So when you're reading this, you're going to understand that everybody that has ever started any business had the exact same excuses. And you're not going to be like, oh, I'm different. No, you're not different. You're the exact same as everybody that has done something, that has stepped off that cliff, done something, created new something. Like they all started that company with the same doubts, the same lack of self-confidence, and they just pushed through it. That's the difference. That's the difference between them and you, is they actually took that action. And here's the big thing, that you have to realize that you don't have to be perfectionist or expert at that thing when you're starting it. You can actually still learn as you go, and you'll find that most entrepreneurs actually just had like an interest in that subject and they became an expert through the course of running that business.
Oh yeah, learning.
So don't wait to think like, oh, I got to know all this thing and you're going to learn as you go. And that's normal. That's absolutely normal. That's how most people are in any business. And then after a year or 2 years or 3 years of doing that, you will be an expert in that subject, believe me. So just have an interest and then hinge on that. But the confidence thing, man, that's huge. There's so many people, they think that it's a self-confidence thing. I think other people have confidence and I don't have confidence. They think it's a genetic thing you're born with. They think, oh, their person's born confident. And it's just not true. It's definitely not true. It's a decision. Confidence is definitely it's an imaginary thing. There's no tangible, like I can't hand you confidence. There's nothing we could put in our hands. It doesn't exist. It's all in your mind. So the amount of confidence you have is just purely mental. And when you decide that I need to be more confident, how am I going to do that? By taking steps. Motivation comes from progress. The little steps you take add up over time, and that gives you even more confidence. You start to see these steps, and whether that's fitness or business or whatever, you take these little baby steps, and then after a month, after 2 months, after 6 months, you turn around and you've covered a lot of ground because you take a baby step.
Yeah.
And that's what motivates you. That's what motivates you. And that's what gives you confidence. It's like you have to do something. You have to take action to see the result, to give you that confidence to keep going. And it's just the momentum starts to build. It's incredible to get people like started in this process, but you realize that it's not something you're born with. I was shy in high school. I was shy in junior high. I had bullies. And it wasn't until really midway through college, I decided, you know what, I'm tired of being that person. Like I see all these other opportunities going to all these other people who are putting themselves out there and doing things and being more outgoing and asking that girl out and doing these things. They're getting all these rewards that I want. And it's because I'm introverted and I'm shy. Like those are the biggest self-limiting beliefs you can have, because there's highly functional introverts. I still consider myself introverted. I still like enjoying spending time alone and reading books and just zoning out and like isolating myself from the world. And that's awesome. But when I can fire up this microphone for the podcast or get on the stage or teach a class or work with clients, I can be a highly functional extrovert when I want to be. And that's a learned skill. That's not something that you're born with.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the more that you put yourself out there, I mean, like what you said in the book, I love this, that failure, when you take a chance and a risk, with failure, it's either you win or you learn. So it's a win-win either way, right? Because the more you learn, the better you're going to do the next time.
Absolutely. And I've been asked that in a couple of different shows. Hey, Tony, what was your biggest failure? What was your biggest, business failure? And I had to
I
think
was
about it.
going
I
to
was like,
ask that.
yeah, well, I'll give you an answer. It's like, to me, it's like, I can't really think of a big business failure. I've had expensive mistakes, that cost thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, but it wasn't like I dwell on those. It was kind of like I forget really fast. I count that as a lesson. And the cost that it cost me, the financial cost or impact of that lesson is basically what that lesson cost me. And that's how I think about failures.
Yeah, isn't it
So,
like the longer you stay down, the longer you are down? Like
oh
you have
yeah.
to get back up after each failure, and that's when you win, and that's when you find your greatest success, is just to keep getting up and going after, it again, and you get better. You get better at it.
Yeah. So people like to say, oh, I have this fear of failure. Well, no, I mean, yeah, I get it. Nobody likes to fail. I get that. We don't like to fall down on our face. We don't like to fall down or humiliate ourselves. But so what the underlying fear of that fear is actually is you're actually afraid of what people are going to say about your
Yeah,
failure.
that's it. Oh my God.
That's what it comes down to. It
Yeah.
has nothing to do with you failing. You failed your entire life. There's no perfect human out there that has never failed at anything. We've had failed relationships, failed jobs, failed friendships, failed, anything you can imagine. We failed at. We failed at our diet. We have
Oh yeah.
cheat days. We have cheat weeks. Sometimes you fail. You're human. You have errors. Understand that failure is just part of the process. That, like, you can't avoid failure. It's going to come no matter what. So what you're really afraid of when you're starting that business is like, oh man, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to create this company. And then if it doesn't work out, like, what are my friends going to say? What are my parents going to say? Like, that's what you're really afraid of. Like, and we could talk about that. That's what the biggest, like, roadblock, I would say, is just worrying about what critics and naysayers and haters and people like that are going to say.
I think that takes a while sometimes for people to overcome. And what are some suggestions around that?
I think we've heard the phrase, like, don't give people real estate in your mind. That's so valuable, and it's so true. It's basically, you have to have some confidence and belief in yourself. And if you're doing things for the right reason and you define what your purpose is, and I get that, like, purpose can be like a hocus pocus word, like, out there for some people, but understand that purpose changes through the phases of your life. The purpose you have today can change, and that's fine. Like, you may have a different purpose 10 years from now or 5 years from now. Understand that whatever that driving purpose is, that's your goal. And if you're doing things for the right reason and you're not being, just a terrible human and just trying to manipulate people or whatever, you're not going to have, like, a worry about critics. When you're doing things for the right reason and you believe in that, and you have critics that come up and say things, you got to realize that critics and naysayers, well, not naysayers, critics and haters are basically just unhappy people. There's unhappy people, they're unfulfilled people, and they're looking to bring anybody else around them down to their level so they can wallow in the cesspool of misery with them, because they don't want to see anybody leave that pool or become more happy or become more successful, because they don't have that in themselves. They may actually be financially successful, but they're not happy. They're not fulfilled, and they don't want to see anyone else happy. So when you start to show that empathy for these people rather than being in defensive mode, when somebody attacks me, and it happens, I don't get defensive anymore. I don't want to fight them. I don't want to punch them. I don't want to, like, talk back to them. I don't want to, like, argue with them, engage with them on
The waste
social
of
media.
energy, for one thing.
Totally. Because when I have come to realize, if I show empathy, and I've got to this habit now, if they are attacking me, I start to question what's wrong with them, not what's wrong with me. And when you can reframe your mind in that powerful manner, critics are not going to bother you at all. You're like, man, I really feel sorry for you. I want you to have your happiness. Like, what can I do to help you? And then they're like, and sometimes they come around. I've had critics that have come around and actually supported what I do because of how I responded to them. They're so used to engaging, like, in these arguments, that they're throwing out these troll bait and they're trying to get you to engage and say
Oh, it's
things
bait. You're
back.
getting baited for
Oh
sure.
yeah, but they're so used to, and they want that confrontation. That's what they're craving. And when you don't give it to them and you reframe it like, hey, I feel bad for you, let me help you out, they're kind of disarmed all of a sudden. Like, oh, I've never seen anyone respond to me like this. And now they're intrigued and they actually have a conversation sometimes. So take that as like a personal self-control of your emotions type thing. When someone's attacking or being a critic or being a hater, like think about that. And instead of like going with your gut instinct to be defense mode, fight back, argue again, like really practice self-control and really think about it. And before you start typing or saying something back, go, what is the perspective of this person? They're just not happy. They're unhappy. They're trying to bring me down, but I'm doing things for the right reasons. So I'm not going to accept their criticism. That's as simple as that. It's just, I don't have to accept it.
Yeah. Chapter 3 in my book, The Sisterhood of Sweat, is all about this topic. And I just think that when you're feeding negative energy, it grows. And so if you stop feeding it, it goes away, because they don't have anything to feed upon. And I do believe in listening to people that are in the trenches doing the same thing as you, because that could be healthy and constructive. But like Brene Brown says, it's the people in the cheap seats that aren't doing the work, that are hating upon you, not to listen to the people in the cheap seats. They're not putting in the work. They're not in the trenches, and they're just standing back, pointing the finger and criticizing. And I remember when I got my first critic on my book, and I'm like, and they're saying it was political, and I'm thinking, my book doesn't have any politics. Like, what are they talking about? And so, at first that rise for like, what? And then I was like, oh, I got a critic. I'm an author.
It validated you. It's like,
Yeah.
that's a great statement. I actually share that a lot. It's like, if you have no critics or haters or naysayers in your life, that means you're not doing anything extraordinary. You're not doing anything worth noticing. Because you have some people that brag out there like, well, I got no haters, I got no critics. It's like, well, it's hard to get haters when you sit on the couch, between 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. and like avoid social media or any kind of social networking thing. Because you're a recluse. You're not doing anything. That's why you have no critics or haters. So you'll find that the more success you have, you're going to draw these kind of people out, and they come in waves. You ever notice that? They show up and you kind of like put the damper on them and they disappear. Then a new crop of them shows up and they try you, and you keep putting the damper on them because you have this process of dealing with these people. And if they're just getting nasty or making threats, obviously you can just block them on social media because they're just worthless people to have around. You're never going to get those kind of people to come around. Just block them. Don't waste your time on them. And, surround yourself. I mean, sometimes we have people we consider friends that are actually naysayers. And that's another thing that people don't realize, that naysayers don't necessarily dislike you. They may actually love you. It could be your parents. It could be your spouse. It could be your best friend. And they're like, well, I don't know about that idea. That seems risky. Or they're talking about things to try to bring down your idea or rain on your parade, so to speak, because they're coming from a place of their own level of risk taking. So if these people have not done the things that you want to achieve, then don't take their advice. That's that simple. Like, actually take advice from people that have actually accomplished what you want to achieve. That's the simple part. Just thank them for their advice. You don't have to be rude. Like, hey, thanks for that advice. Smile at them. Appreciate that. And then just go do what you need to do.
And that really leads me into the topic about who you surround yourself with. In the book, you talk a lot about the 5 people you surround yourself with. And I want to kind of dive into that on the level of, yes, you can surround yourself with great people, friends, and people that, are on the same mission as you. But what do you do when you're around maybe negative people in your family, your spouse, your friends, that you can't really separate yourself from? What's your suggestion there?
Well, I think unless they live in the same house as you, obviously you can't separate yourself from those people. But for everyone else, it's fair game. You can definitely make some distance between yourself, that anyone that you don't have to see on a daily basis. I mean, obviously, if you're working at a job and you've got a coworker sitting next to you that's just annoying and draining your energy, or a boss that's overbearing or micromanaging and you can't get away because that's your boss, those are temporary, issues, because you can find another job. Like, if you're going to sit there and take that pain from those people and sit next to the energy vampire, like that's your problem, because you're not taking any action to make that different. That's a situation you can actually control. You could quit. You could find another job. You could request a transfer, whatever. There's all kinds of actions, but if you just take it, that's your problem. Now, people that are obviously in your house, whether that's your children or spouse or your parents, like, yeah, I get it. You can't get away from them, but you could spend less time at home. If you can, if you go, just go do something else, go get a hobby or something, it's like minimize the amount of time where you're just like walking past them as you're going to the bedroom at night to go to bed, like whatever it is, like you can create distance and be creative, but just go do that. And if you got friends like that, like just spend less time with them. I mean, I hate to say it. I've had friends out there, they're the negative Nancy's, and I just always find something better to do. And I'm not lying, because I actually will go find things better to do than hang out with people like that. Because the real simple answer with people to me is, if they're bringing you energy, I want them around me, whether that's if they're more successful or less successful than me, because I'm not worried about that so much. Because while we always hear about, you become the 5 people you hang around with the most, I believe in helping other people up. So I'm not looking for just having like 5 friends that are above me. I'm looking for
Right.
people.
That's
that
what
are
I'm
awesome.
getting at too.
Yeah,
Like you have a conversation with that person that's possibly being negative, and try to address it, because sometimes it's just like, if you don't address it, it's just going to continue.
exactly. You have to create boundaries. Like a lot of people will
I love that
vent.
word.
You ever had people that would start venting about something, but they're like, they start out in a conversational voice, and then they start raising their voice at you, and they're like feel like they're yelling at you about something else. Like, oh, hell no. Hell no. Hey, relax. You're taking out your bull crap on me. Like I'm the one that's the victim here, or causing you this pain. Like you need to just have a conversation with me, instead of like, like raising your voice and getting all emotional about something. It's like, I tell you, if you act all emotional like that, you have zero self-control. That's what it boils down to. And you really need to work on that. Because I used to have that. I used to have anger issues. I used to want to punch people whenever they were like coming after me, or my knee-jerk reaction, like especially for most men, is like to attack back, right? And it took years of just self-control and being aware of what I was doing to control that. And if you're like a grown-ass man or a grown-ass woman, and you're still being all emotional and like letting yourself get all out of control, and like to the point that it would embarrass you, and if you were watching yourself like on a movie do that, that's the level of self-control and awareness you need to have. Be like, whoa, I need to throttle this back. I'm kind of like way out of line, like where I need to be.
That was our episode before this. The fight is not about the fight. I had a therapist on, and she was talking all about that. Wow. I really want to dive into this whole side hustle thing. Like, I would consider my podcast my side hustle, and my business is the Sisterhood of Sweat, my book, and my gym. So how do like people that are like in a career possibly where they're miserable, like what we were just talking about, their boss is yelling at them, and their boss is like out of there, like it's just out, and they want out of that job, and they have a side hustle, you know, maybe they're kind of like they should leave and they should just go with the side hustle, but something's holding them back. What would your advice be to those people?
Well, I would say that you have to look at the situation. The easiest way to do it is to total up all your total bills and expenses per month, to understand that actual numbered value, and look at things you can remove from your lifestyle that are just miscellaneous costs, and really come up with this number like, hey, if I can make this per month, then I can have that ultimate freedom where I can just leave. Now, I may not have that same lifestyle because I have this double income coming in, and I get that. But what is the minimum amount you need to make just to be able to walk away and have? And when you have that number, it gives you so much empowerment. When let's say like your typical family, and you're like, man, we need to make $6,000-7,000 a month to pay our bills or whatever it is, right? Have this number, and you realize like, oh man, my side hustle, it's like almost there. Like if I could just make 7,000 to cover my bills, even though I got this other job paying it, it gives you such a powerful feeling to be understanding like you have this golden parachute that you can use anytime you want. When there's layoffs that come around, that happens a lot in the oil industry I was in, or you have this disparaging boss that's like just draining your stress, and you're like, it's hurting you physiologically and mentally, and you got bullies at work or whatever it is. Like when you have that golden parachute, your confidence is going to be so much higher than anyone else, like in that entire floor, because you're going to have all these colleagues that are just having to take this abuse because they have no exit plan. and they're just going to take it and they're going to bitch about it at the water cooler, at the coffee station, at lunch. And you're just sitting on your golden parachute, like listening to all these people like, why the hell aren't you guys doing something about this? Like, this is your choice. It's because they don't feel enough pain yet. They don't
Yeah,
feel enough pain yet to go create that. But
that makes total sense. I see that in relationships too, where they're just
same thing.
take it, complain, 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 no exit strategy, and it is their choice, right, to stay in it. That is something they forget, I think, that it's their choice.
Their comfort
They're
versus
having
pain
a victim
level.
mentality about it.
Yeah, you got your comfort and pain levels that go up and down, and they haven't seen enough pain, whether it's financial or mental or stress, to actually take action. So they're just going to hover in this little range for the rest of their lives. People do that their entire lives. It's not like they do it like temporarily. Like people get complacent and they go, well, job sucks, but it's paying the bills. Like how many times you've heard that? It's paying the bills. It's like, but are you fulfilled? Are you happy? Do you enjoy going to
Well, they're
work?
placing all their value on money.
Yes. Yeah.
Insecurity.
They have the employee mindset where they're like, what can I make per hour? And then they set their own personal worth based on that dollar value per hour. Like, oh, well, I'm only a $12 an hour person. So, and then you got the next guy, well, I'm a $25 an hour person. And then the next one's like, I'm making $50 an hour. And then you got the person like, I'm up to $100 an hour. So you can start to see this self image of yourself based on an hourly rate, and it's a terrible mindset to be in because we're all valuable, and you're so capable of earning so much more if you're willing to get out there and just do something instead of just putting yourself in this bucket of like, this is where I'm at. Success is reserved for other people. I'm never going to leave this bucket. This is what my mom and dad told me that success is if I get a house, a mortgage, 2 kids and a wife, like I've made it, like I'm successful, and I've got the family that, we had grown up in the trailer parks and things, and they thought like having a double wide trailer is like a success in their eyes. So when you set these goals really low and you hit that goal, you think, well, I must have made it. I'm successful. I've got a mortgage, but you don't realize that your potential is so much higher. And if you're willing to actually put in that work, you're going to see those results. You got to get it past your head. That version of success that's been beat in your head for decades is not really true success if you're not feeling happy or fulfilled for that level.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I think sometimes people get to the level of success that they didn't ever see for themselves, and it freaks them out. Like, they didn't see themselves being at this magnitude, so they start to self-sabotage. So you really have to change that thinking upstairs about what you're capable of, what your value is, and what your worth is.
Yeah, so it all goes back. Instead of thinking about dollars per hour, you should be thinking about dollars per value. Like, what value are you creating in this world? What value, whether that's a skill or a talent or a business or a product, whatever value you're providing to this world is going to show itself in the dollars that you end up with.
That's really great. I love that. So you have really positioned yourself in the marketplace, and you have a brand. And I think like people are still kind of coming to what is a brand, and how do I make my business into a brand that everyone recognizes? What are some top tips for that?
So a lot of people think that brands only involve products or a company, like a brand, like Coca-Cola or Nike or things like that. These are brands. Like the logo on my shirt's a brand, Nike swoosh. So it's kind of, they're like, well, what's a personal brand? When they hear that, they're kind of like, I don't know, a personal brand. I'm just an employee. I just go to work every day. Well, here's the thing. You actually have a personal brand. You just don't know it. And I actually had a good interview from a podcast guest, AJ Adams, and he laid it out, a beautiful, simple statement that really applies to anything personal branding. His statement was, if you're not out there actively creating your personal brand, everyone else is creating your personal brand for you. So it's basically your reputation. It's basically how you portray yourself in the world, how you dress, how you walk, how you treat people, how you communicate, the action that you take to show the results, the acknowledgments, anything that you're doing out there is all culminating into a pile of that's building your personal brand, your persona online or in public, wherever your choice is. But here we are on social media. So obviously, if you're engaging in social media, you're building a personal brand. There's people that are forming their judgments about you. And while it's like so politically correct to say, like, don't judge a book by its cover, don't be judgmental, like, oh, like we can all say that till we're, blue in the face, but people do judge. It's just human nature. Animals even judge. So you have control over that perception of what you want to put out there, and the confidence level, like we talked about, like all those characteristics I just talked about, you have control over those things. Like, if you don't like the way you dress, go buy better clothes. If you don't like the way you look, take better care of yourself. Go take some fitness, do some, do whatever it takes. Like, get to that confidence level where you actually do have some self-love, because that's very important. And when you start to show that confidence, you're going to find that people treat you the way you allow them to treat you, not how they want to treat you.
Well, my whole brand is about helping women build self-confidence and self-esteem, because I know that when you have confidence, you're less likely to put yourself in situations that don't serve you. And you're more likely to be, starting a business or, going after your dreams if you have that inner confidence within.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, from helping people start companies, what I've learned over the course of the last couple of years is that I'm actually helping them with confidence. A lot of times people come to me knowing the tasks that they need to do, and I help them, of course, get them in order and put them in a logical sequence and have them more focused, and I keep them accountable. But I would say 50% of what I'm actually helping people is becoming more confident and getting rid of that self-doubt and getting rid of the critics, the voices in their head that are keeping them from starting. But getting back on the branding is real simple. Branding is what people say about you or your product when you're not around. It really is. It's that simple. What are they going to say about you, Linda, when you're not around? You get to build that. You could create that. And like for myself, I want to be Tony. I want to be the guy that shows that you can take action. I want to show that you can change and take different courses and directions in your life and reinvent yourself like in a fearless manner. I want to show you that with the right business principles and processes, you can actually have successful businesses over and over again. I want to show you that someone that can go from terrible public speaking skills and being scared to be on camera and doing these awful videos on Instagram because that was the best I can do, like literally a year ago, to winning public speaking contests, getting invited to do paid public speaking things, being interviewed on radio, being interviewed on podcasts like this, and having the confidence to speak without saying and hearing your voice crack. Like, these are skills that you learn by just simply showing up, doing the process. Understand that thousands of people before you have done this, and there's answers for every solution or excuse you have, and you get to control that and build who you want to be. That's your brand. Like, what do you want to be? Like, I tell my clients all the time, like, who do you want to be in 1 year? 1 year, you can change a lot about a person. 1 year seems like it goes by so fast as we age because it's a smaller fraction of our lifetime. But in 1 year, you can change some things incredible. Like, I've only been doing the public mentorship and coaching and things like a little over a year now. And I've accomplished so much in 1 year. That's I want people watching this to listen. Like, it's been a year. Like, I've been in the public for 20 years doing online things with the car stuff. And then the last year I started doing more of the business focused stuff. It's like 1 year.
Oh, yeah. It kind of blew me away when I was at Powerful You this last weekend, when people would get up and say, or like Mel Robbins, I forget whether it was 4 or 5 years. It wasn't that long. She's getting ready to have her own talk show, and I was just like blown away by the amount of time once that light bulb went off and they realized, wait, I can do this. I can go after my dreams. I'm worthy of having what I want. And it's amazing. You don't reach the goals you don't set. Like, that's the thing. It's a very small percentage of the population that even set goals because they're so afraid of that word failure. And you aren't gonna, like, I know it's cliche to say I'm not gonna reach the shots I don't take, but it's the truth. if like one time, this is so funny. I was at Todd Durkin's workshop, and he's a motivational coach. If you guys don't know him, and a fitness guru. And I forgot to put my little thing in the drawing. And he had a drawing, was giving away stuff. And I was like, darn, I didn't win. I wanted to win that so bad. And then I'm like, oh, I didn't put my drawing. I didn't put my ticket in. I didn't put my hat in the ring. So how can you win if you don't put your ticket in? You don't put your hat in the ring. And so I got another opportunity, and then I didn't forget, and I won.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Like, if you're watching this or listening, the process is simple. The process to any level of success is simple. It's already been laid out. Like, thousands of people have already beaten that path. They can tell you exactly what the process is. It's simple, but the effort is not. It's not easy. So
it's a lot of work.
Don't make an excuse that you don't have the process. We can give you that, but it's showing up every single damn day, creating that value, building that audience, building that brand, learning how to do the right marketing instead of just pitch. You don't want to be like person sticking product in everybody's face every day, because no one likes that. It's like, it's annoying. If you become a walking infomercial, like, nobody likes you. That's the honest truth. Like, nobody's clicking on your stuff. Nobody's liking that stuff. But if you're adding value, I'm going to share some strategy for social media marketing. It's worked excellent for me. And I've been in branding. I used to run a branding agency. I was doing digital branding, 15 years ago. You got to create content. You got to create value to the world. You got to educate, inspire, or motivate people with your content rather than talk about product. Because here's the beauty about it. The more you put out there, people tend to Facebook creep. They're going to go look up what you're doing. They're going to try to figure out what your actual job is. And it's kind of like you create all this value as your casting net. And then they're just going to get their curiosity is going to lead them back to your profile page. It's going to lead them to clicking on the websites on your page or the links that you have. And then they decide what they want to do. If they like you, they're going to do business with you. So you don't have to always be saying, hey, come work with me. Like, I'm going to teach you to make $10,000 a month. Like, all that stuff gets cheesy because you're just part of the noise that everybody says that stuff. If you want to stand out from the crowd, just add value. Tell people the secrets. Be more vulnerable. We talked about Brene Brown and things like that. It's powerful books. If you haven't read Daring Greatly, I highly recommend it. It'll make you step out there and realize that being vulnerable, doing these videos, that's a show of courage. It's not something, it's not a weakness. Like, a lot of people, we grew up being told, like, guard yourself, don't be vulnerable. Like, people will take advantage of you, this kind of stuff like that. So we have this guarding, like, we wear this armor around. If you can get rid of that and understand that being vulnerable, stepping on that stage, taking that microphone, writing that book, opening yourself up to critics is the most vulnerable thing that we can do. It's like one of the greatest fears, like taking the public speaking is like one of the highest fears there is, because of the vulnerability that you're putting out there. You're by yourself, the light's shining on you, like hundreds of people staring at you like that. Like some people listening to this might start getting like the goosebumps right now, like, oh my God, or they're starting to sweat just thinking of that, the anxiety. But you can actually process through that by learning how to do public speaking. Go join Toastmasters, just like Lewis Howes and a lot of other celebrity speakers. That's what I did. Supportive group that's going to help you learn to get better and better, more confident to do that. And after a while, it's like, why was I ever scared to do this? Like it does, like, critics don't matter. When you get to that mindset, that's all it takes. That's all it takes. But you have to be willing to do it. That's simple, man. It's just a skill. It's like anything else you try, you get better at. Just repetition.
I totally agree with you on that. I can remember just when I was going to start my podcast, I totally learned how to do it. I've got all the tools. I sat and listened to hundreds of podcasts, and I got stuck in, at first, just how I was going to be. Like, like you're listening to other people, and I'm like, well, I'm not like so-and-so. I'm not a spiritual guru. I'm not, business wizard. I was stuck in the what I was not, and I wasn't focusing on what I am. And once I realized who I am and what I bring to the table and what I have to offer people, like, it's going to be coming from me and my experiences, and those are just as valid, just as worthy as anyone else. I'm going to reach people they don't reach, and if you sit back, nobody's ever going to hear your message, and you're not going to light the path of other people that maybe need to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. So if you go down the road trying to copy somebody else and you're not being genuine or unique of who you are, I can't even imagine the stress of like keeping that. That's like being an actor, staying in character your entire life now. Like you're creating something that's going to be really hard to maintain.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to like carry a liar's handbook around to keep all the notes of all the lies you told. That way you can keep your story straight. Like, why don't you just be yourself? Like if you're like Gary Vee or someone that's like always dropping F bombs, that's you. That's who you are. Like, be yourself. You're going to find the right audience. People gravitate to whoever they like. I mean, you and I, we could say the exact same thing. We could have a script and we could read it word for word, and half the people are going to love you and half the people are going to love me. They're going to have critics that hate you. There's going to be critics that hate me. And we could have said the same exact thing. So find your way of communicating, and you're going to find that audience if you could just show up. That's the main thing. I think consistency does not get spoken enough about. So I'm very big. It was actually a part of the chapter in my book that you read, that consistency and just showing up, like the marketing value, the powerfulness of persistence and consistency is not looked at enough in the social media world.
Well, I know there's a lot of power in consistency and just showing up. And there's power, and I know a lot of you out there, I can completely relate to having a fear. A lot of you are really, really stuck in fear. Like, fear can be paralyzing. I can remember being at the Grand Canyon and just being so, like, I got my family there. I wanted to go out on that skywalk and get them all, they're all there. They're going out on the skywalk. I was paralyzed by fear, just like, oh my God, it's a sheer drop to the actual bottom of the canyon. And I asked a lady, do they have earthquakes? And she's like, yeah, every day. Oh, thanks for that. And I had to talk to myself, because I'm always telling people to overcome their fear. I'm like, all right, this is on you. So I can just remember thinking, wow, I could compare this to going to new heights in my career, and I need to overcome this so that when it's time to step out onto that stage, I'm ready, because I'm going to do this now. I'm going to face my fear right here, smack in the face. And I got myself to walk around the perimeter.
Oh, wow. There you go. You didn't just step on it. You like went around it and owned it like the stage. See?
Well, first what happened is I got out, got my proof, and got my selfie. And then I went back. I had to think about it. Let's get real. Then I walked the perimeter. And then I got back and I pressed my face against the glass, looking straight down into the canyon. And I can't tell you how much that really helped me overcome. It was a physical thing, but I think it really helped me with any kind of fear. So I think you got to expose yourself to the fear. You got to face fear you got to face it smack in the, in the head. You got to face it straight on. And once you do that, you're going to find out, wow, I'm so free now. I don't have that fear. I can do so much more.
Fear and pain, those are great indicators of things that you should be doing. And you're in the fitness world, I've seen like you're very well, you're in great shape, but you put a lot of time and fitness in that, but you don't get that way without feeling pain or resistance. Like if you go to the gym and you're just lifting like no weights at all, like you're not feeling any resistance, you're not going to gain any muscle. It's like, what am I doing? So think about the analogy of anything. Like if you want to grow muscle or grow in your life, grow as a person, you got to face that resistance and look for resistance, look for that pain, and do what it takes to fight through that. Because I'll tell you, every time you can overcome a fear or that pain, you're going to be a better person. You're going to have a better result at the end of that.
Yeah, 100% agree. This has been an amazing conversation. I have enjoyed talking to you so much. And where can people get your book, check out your podcast, and reach you on social media?
I show a picture, Side Hustle Millionaire. It's got Benjamin Franklin staring at you, which we all like Benjamin Franklin. He's a good photo. He's a good portrait there, because whenever you're in the room, he's always got that eyeball that follows you around, which I like. And you can find my book on Amazon. Look up my name, Tony Whatley, or Side Hustle Millionaire. You'll find it there. And my website to reach me on, I'm very active on Instagram and Facebook, but you can find all those links at my website. It's 365driven.com.
And what are 3 tips of any sort, can just be wisdom or quotes, you'd like to leave with the audience today?
Well, that quote we brought up earlier is very strong. It's actually one of in the back of my book. It says, "Fear and confidence are both imaginary. You simply decide which one to live with." That's a quote that I came up with, and it's like that's going to be in the back of my book. And underneath that book, underneath there, I signed it Tony Whatley, hopeful best-selling author when I wrote the book, and then it became a bestseller in 9 hours. So that kind of shows you I had a very strong belief in myself, even when I was typing that book, to put that out there. That's like calling your shot, right?
Putting it right out there in the
Yeah,
universe, speaking it into
exactly.
existence.
I think that's a perfect lead into another topic that I want to talk about is visualization. Like you have to have some kind of a visualization or a message board. I actually have the background of my computer screen as a collage of all these things, of the goals in life. I've got like a TEDx stage on there, and I had the Amazon #1 bestseller logo in the middle, and I have different cars and homes and vacation places that I'd like to visit. So every day I fire up this computer, and every day I shut it down, I see that background, and it kind of keeps me on track. Like, are the decisions I'm making today going to get me to those goals? And that's the simple thing, is it's always serves as a reminder. I've had friends that I've created backgrounds for their cell phones the same way. So every time they look at their phone, they can like gives your brain a little dose of, hey, that's the goal. Like, what are you doing right now? Is that thing that you're doing right now really going to get you to that goal? And if the answer is yes or no, it's really a yes or no question in life. Everything is either going to get you to that goal or it's going to move you away from that goal. And when you start to live your life doing things that are always going to get you towards your goal, you're going to hit those goals a lot sooner than you think. But I have to visualize that. You have to give your brain something to really focus on as the goal. Like when I say visualization, like really get deep with that stuff. Like think about if like I'm a car guy. I like cars, and I
My
remember.
husband's a car guy.
There you go. So I remember being in college, broke, paying for my own self, and then I remember in 1996, the blue and white Dodge Viper came out. And it was like, it was like the first year that body style came out. And I'm a General Motors guy. I didn't have any interest in Dodges, but this Viper came out. I was like, oh my God, that is a beautiful car. But it's like, like $80,000 at the time. That's like $100-something thousand nowadays, right? It's like, I don't know if I'll be able to afford that. But I visualized like myself owning that car and driving that car. And eventually things happened where we call it law of attraction, right? You put it out there and you visualize that, and your brain starts to work backwards and solve these puzzles. Like your brain's a very strong puzzle solver. And if you give it the goal, it starts to look for opportunities and things start to align to get you to that goal. It's like it's working in the background to get you to that goal. So that's why you want to be really strong at visualization. And eventually I ended up buying a brand new blue and white Dodge Viper. And like when I sold a company, I was able to pay cash, like $95,000 for a car. So things can happen like that. And I've seen this happen through so many times in my life that when I put my goals out there, I give my brain something to fixate on, whether that was that bestseller or whatnot, and I do the right things to get to that goal, and it happens. So it's very important to understand that, feel that on an attachment level. If you can trick your brain into seeing that goal, like in a really fine, like sitting in a car, can you smell the leather? Can you feel what the steering wheel is? Can you see out the windows? Can you experience the engine noise? Can you feel what the happiness that you're going to have by like driving in that thing? These are the things you want to remember, because your brain's going to be like, hey, I want that. Like that seems real to me. Like I want that. So now it's going to try to help you get there. It's going to start lining up people for you to get there. It's going to line up businesses for you to get there. Where if you just count yourself out and you don't have any goals, your brain just switches off. It's like goes into like sleep mode basically. And people do that in their entire lives. Brain is just in sleep mode because you've never given it a goal to chase.
And I totally wholeheartedly agree with you on that, because we did our vision boards last year and we could almost check off every single thing on the list. So, I mean, and so it's just all about writing it down, setting those goals, visualizing, and just the power of you guys.
There you go. Hold yourself accountable, because nobody else really will unless you're paying us.
There you go. Wow. Thank you guys. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks so much, Tony, for spending the time with us today to get us all motivated in our side hustles and just our lives. And we really appreciate having you on today.
Enjoyed being on your show, Linda, and everybody listening, just take action. That's all that matters. Just take action.
Awesome. Bye, everybody.